Hello, I'm talking to you on the 4th of February 2012. If this is any year other than 2012, then presumably we are not going to die this year, but me, being in the past, I do not know this. I am Trizon, known to my comrades as Kieran, and this is my first little attempt at a vlog of such, a vlog as it may also be known. So yes, I'm not quite sure why I've decided to do this. I just felt like talking to you people, whoever you are, and as I so often do, I think I'm going to have a little chat with you about one of my favourite topics, a lesser known gem from the PlayStation era, known as Colony Wars. Now, if you've played it, you know why I love it, and if you haven't, let me give you a little rundown, okay? You see, it was released in sort of the earlier times of the PlayStation, back when it may not have been entirely clear just how badly it was going to crush all the competition on the console side of things. And it's a spacey, shooty, 3D thingamajig, and I think it would basically qualify as a simulation more than anything else, but it doesn't feel very simulaty, you know? It's not like a space-based Microsoft Flight Simulator, you know? I mean, you've got a controller, it's not going to be that complicated. But you fly around and you shoot things, and it's pretty simple. It's also incredibly hard later on, and I've never finished it without cheating, to my eternal shame. But what makes it amazing, if you ask me, is the style of it, the aesthetic. Because obviously, technically speaking, a game from, 15 years ago is going to be pretty lacking by today's standards. But the style, the feel, the look of it is just, you do not get that at all, or very often these days. It has this very kind of operatic look to it, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I don't know what I'm on about sometimes, but you just look at it, it has this kind of, I wouldn't say realistic, but, you know, it's kind of a Star Trek-ish, you know, it's not completely outlandish. You can see how something might be designed that way if you were going to make something that moved in space. And obviously, if you were actually designing something to fly through space, you wouldn't bother making it aerodynamic, but, you know, this is science fiction. The fiction part is the interesting part of that. You may want to pay attention to it. But, so you've got that. You've just got these really awesome looking ships. I've done a very bad job of explaining this, which is not very surprising, because I know it so well, but it's just such a mass of images and noises and explosions and lasers in my head. It's kind of hard to put down concrete into words, if you know what I mean. And for some reason I went a bit, what's his name, Christopher Walken there, I'm not sure. If you know what I mean. That was my horrible Christopher Walken impression, but back on topic. Okay, basically, I should probably tell you the story, really. It's an outwardly simple story, but it's told very, very well. And I've found a lot of the best stories tend to be like that. Don't overcomplicate things, writers. Okay. You are a member of the League of Free Worlds, which is some sort of alliance, like a rebel alliance, as it were, that has been formed in the Galania system, which may or may not be a real thing, I'm not sure. I think they made it up. I'm quite ignorant. And this has been formed because the Earth Empire, some distant future where there is an Earth Empire, has been like exploiting the other systems under its control by like taking unreasonable amounts of resources and being general gits, okay? And the League of Free Worlds rises up and decides they're gonna teach those mean old Earth Empire people with their Tsar at the top. They're going to teach them a lesson. You know. And that is just about the worst explanation of the plot you could ever ask for. But it has this absolutely brilliant style. Very... Obviously, again, from a graphical, technical standpoint, it is aged horribly. But the aesthetic and look of it, you can just see how much love went into that. And, you know, for a first-party game, to have that much, you know, actual vision behind it is not common these days, you know. Most of them tend to be a lot of continuations of long-running series. I could name names, but I think you might know what I'm on about. But then, it just tells a story, and the game starts off very easy, as you might imagine it does. It does not take long to get ridiculously hard, but here's the thing. If you fail a couple of missions, you do not just immediately lose the game. What will happen is that you'll be shown a little cutscene at specific points, showing how badly the League is doing because you suck so much, and it'll be like something like sometimes they'll retreat for a bit to, you know, tactical withdrawal, and it shows the cutscene saying, and then they ran away with their tails between their legs, but they did it heroically. And you'll see that, and then you'll have to do a different mission where you're like having to defend now instead of attack because the Earth Empire was turned around and started coming after you. And if you lose that, you'll probably get a game over. But if you win, you then can push ahead and get back on the track of the plot again. And the ultimate extent of the plot is, surprise, surprise, you go to Earth, blow up their big doomsday device, which I famously described as being the approximate shape of 3 Enterprises strapped together and approximate size of the Death Star, which is a pretty accurate description. You blow that up somehow, because science, and then the galaxy is saved. It's a golden era of peace and love, and everyone is happy, and that's all lovely. But actually, that is not the true ending. That is not true ending. Spoilers. I'll put a spoiler tag in the video. I should have mentioned that earlier. But that is not the true ending. There are no fewer than 5 possible endings. 2 of them are good, air quotes, and the others are bad, air quotes. Now, in the bad ones, that's when the League totally fails and gets destroyed and everything goes back to the way it was to some degree or other. And the 2 good endings are when they do actually get a victory. The one I just described is if you get all the way to the end and beat the impossible last boss and win. But that's not actually the canonical ending from which the sequel continues. The sequel being Colony Wars Vengeance. There's also a second sequel that has almost nothing to do with the other games and I've barely played, which is probably a bit of an injustice, but whatever. Point is, this is the canonical ending. The League of Free Worlds get into the Sol system, you know, the final stretch, and they get their asses kicked. They're like, oh crap, this is the enemy's main base, what were we thinking, we can't take them on here, let's run away. But they don't just run away to gather their forces again this time. What they do is, they go through the warp gate or wormhole, whatever it's called, and they close it from their end. Okay. Now think about that. The Earth Empire, the entire reason they were being gits to everyone was because their system had no resources left. And so they had to be gits in order to survive, basically. Ooh, moral ambiguity. And now, by cutting off the wormhole, which was their one way to access resources, the League have effectively just killed the Earth Empire in the cruelest, most agonizing way. Because what happens is you've got billions of people, literally billions of people, who now have nowhere near enough resources to survive. So what happens? Civil war happens. Countless millions of people kill each other over the scraps that are left. And you get this really amazingly bittersweet ending where it's like, well, we won, but are we any better than them? Kind of a thing. And it's just so, oh wow. You know, there aren't many games where I actually sit there and think, wow, I'm an absolute dick. Like, I don't that doesn't happen to me often. I don't think about things morally very much. I just do things. But that is without a doubt one of the most surprisingly memorable endings to any game I've ever experienced, and I've played a lot of games. So, yes, that is just part of why I love Colony Wars. I'll tell you something else I love about Colony Wars. The soundtrack. Yes, done by one Tim Wright, aka Cold Storage. This name may already be ringing bells if you're familiar with any other Psygnosis games. He also did the Wipeout soundtrack and Shadow of the Beast 2, I believe. Yep, the score for Colony Wars. Obviously the technical limitations, but he had this CD technology to work with, which was still pretty crazy at the time. Ooh, CDs. So he had to come up with this, like I said, operatic, this classical score that would kind of communicate the epic, spacey, battley goodness that's going on and all the drama and junk. And he's said in like interviews since, like with the Retro Gamer, that it was quite different to what he'd had to do before. But the result is, if you ask me, the single most underrated soundtrack in gaming. I could just listen to that forever. It's so, it's got these sad tracks and these powerful adventure-y tracks, and just the majestic tracks that just sound really pretty, and it's like, ooh, space, infinite goodness. And one of them in particular, Opus Beta, is a medley of different tunes and sounds very nice. I tend to go on about that one. The others don't really have names, they're just called Track 1, Track 2, but I also like Track 3 and Track 11 are some of my favourites. Track 1 is also quite kind of sad but epic and nice. Sets the tone for the rest of the game, but I may be rambling. But I'm sure I'll put some of that music in there. He very nicely, Tim Wright, he's still working, he's still about. He has put the entire game soundtrack on his website for free, which is pretty amazing since I'd gladly pay money for that. I'd gladly pay more money for that than 99% of what's on iTunes, without a doubt, so that's another ramble for another day. But yes, so long story short, if you're in the market for a PS1 game from yesteryear, which by the way will work on any model of PS3 to my knowledge, so that's not a problem. It's going to be extremely cheap too, isn't it? Come on. Colony Wars, yes, Colony Wars. If you like your space epic with actiony goodness and a narrator who sounds remarkably like James Earl Jones, very randomly but awesomely, then I don't think I can recommend Colony Wars enough. It's one of the games I tend to just go on and on and on about. It's everything that is awesome, if you ask me. Yep. Of course, if you're in the market for PS1 games, I would also recommend things like Soul Reaver, although the Dreamcast version is superior. Let's think. Sheepdog and Wolf is another one I could go on about. I don't tend to obsess over that as much because it's not all space and awesome. But yes, I have a very relevant and topical point. Just the other day, well, I mean months ago, still relevant, I submitted an email to Retro Gamer, which is a British magazine which does interviews with people who made retro games and junk. Quite a niche audience, naturally. I've previously had a couple of other emails in there before, and they have like a post section, like magazines often do. And I got an email into there, and I was talking about Colony Wars and how awesome it was. They had actually, coincidentally, this is partly what inspired me, they'd already interviewed that Tim Wright man who did the music, but they just interviewed him generally. It wasn't focusing on Colony Wars. And I said, you've already talked to him, so this seems like a leap of logic, but if you've talked to him, maybe you could find some of the people who actually made Colony Wars, because I think it's awesome, and not enough people know about it. So they were like, that's a good idea, and they put my email in the magazine, and it says Kieran what's-his-face in there, and so that's pretty awesome there, and they said they may well try and get round to that. So that's pretty exciting. But anyone who subscribes to Retro Gamer, look in issue 99 and you'll find my name in there, which is pretty exciting. Yep. So I've technically been a published writer for some years now. Not a paid writer, no, God no, but yep. But this is definitely getting too rambly now. I'm gonna just finish. I will just say, only the first Colony Wars soundtrack was done by Tim Wright. The other two were done by completely different people who both did nice jobs, I might point out, but it's not quite the same. So yes, I have no idea how long I've been going on. Might have been 10 years for all I know. This has been my first attempt at a rambly vloggy thing, and we've been talking about Colony Wars, which I recommend you all go out and try yourself. I may be imagining this, but it may be on the PlayStation Store thing. I have no idea. I don't look for it there because I already own the game, obviously. But there you go. Go and do that. And if it is on the store, that'll be quite good, because then theoretically you might be supporting the original creators. But I don't know. So yes, at any rate, even if you don't play the game, and I admit it is not aged well, time has ravaged it quite badly, but go and find that soundtrack. Seriously, this is like, if you have any interest in spacey music at all, this soundtrack is you can get it for free off Tim Wright's website. So there's absolutely no excuse. Alright, this has been Kieran, and this has been my first attempt at a vlog. I may well end this with some more pretty Colony Wars music. And if so, you're about to hear that. I might be imagining this, but I think it will happen because I'm psychic like that. And, well, goodbye, and hopefully there will be more rambles in the future. Fare thee well.